Welcome to the Women Get Funded show, where we are dedicated to empowering women founders to shatter barriers and achieve exponential growth and funding for their business. Join us on this inspiring journey as we illuminate the path to unlocking opportunities and prosperity for women-led enterprises. With only 2% of venture funding going to women-led businesses and a mere 3% of women-led companies crossing the $1 million threshold, these startling statistics highlight the need for change. I am Kofo Selman, 5-time founder, impact investor, creator of the Force for Good business system, and your host on this transformative journey. In each episode, you'll meet a trailblazing woman leader. You will meet venture capitalists, CEOs, successful founders, and experts in scaling business growth. Our purpose is clear. We are here to open doors and provide women founders with invaluable access to advisors, investors, and visionary leaders who share our commitment to creating a better world through women-led business at #WomenGetFunded. We see a future where tomorrow's Amazons, Mercks, Microsofts, and Home Depots are born right here, led by women. They represent the future face of business, and we're here to make it happen. I believe that women-led business is the most powerful, transformative force of our time. Together, we make the world better through business. Are you in? Welcome to the Women Get Funded show. We are dedicated to empowering women founders to shatter barriers and achieve exponential growth and funding for their businesses. Thank you for joining us today as we illuminate the path to unlocking opportunities and prosperity for women-led enterprises. Today, we have such a special guest here with us. Naseem Sayani is a co-founder and general partner at Emmeline Ventures, a seed-stage venture capital fund based in Los Angeles, investing across women's health, financial services, and climate with laser focus on tech and innovation that is helping women live and thrive. Love that. The Emmeline portfolio has 23 companies, including Alloy, LunaJoy, WealthMore, and The Beans. And Naseem's investing and business building experience comes from 20 plus years in executive leadership roles across management consulting, agency services, venture incubators, a corporate venture capital firm, and as an active angel investor. She and her partners launched Emmeline in 2022 with a deliberate focus on unlocking new capital for female founders and bringing more women to the table as VC check writers. Naseem has an MBA from NYU Stern, where she is awarded Dean's Leadership Award 2 years running, and a BA from UCLA in Business Economics, where she graduated cum laude. It is such a pleasure to have you, Naseem. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
So as our icebreaker, I'd just love to know, Naseem, what's one book written by a woman that has significantly influenced your life?
It's such a great icebreaker question. So there's a really tremendous book called The Mistress of Spices that's by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. And it's an incredible story of magic and power and female superpowers and influence. And it's just, she's woven all of these beautiful tenets of like femininity and growth and struggle and redemption into this beautiful story. And it's a very quick read. And I read it very early college. And I think before I had maybe fully kind of taken on my like change the world as a woman kind of role in how I think now. And it was so inspirational at the time. And it's one of those books that sits on my shelf pretty much all the time because it's a great read. It's absolutely worth it.
I have not read this book. So The Mistress of Spices.
Mistress of Spice.
I can't wait to read it. And
Yeah.
I love when we're young in those college years and so forth and find inspiration. I have a few experiences like that myself. So I really, really resonate with that. And I would kind of pick it up right away. I love, love, love to read. So thank you for that wonderful recommendation. And maybe, if maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got into venture and
Yeah.
and why.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I grew up in management consulting. I like to consider myself a recovering consultant because I spent so much time on planes, and all of it was in digital strategy and innovation. I was at a core strategy consulting firm for a number of years, starting in 2007 when we first had iPhones in our hands, and so that was serendipitously. I'm in a world that is we're like building the plane as we're flying it, so to speak, in the digital strategy space. So I did that for a number of years. Very quickly, myself and the partners I work with realized that our clients we were struggling with strategy with our clients, and then they were also struggling with execution. So
Yeah.
building product, testing for resonance, putting things in market. So we launched a product studio inside of the consulting firm so that we could actually do those services as well. We hired on product people, designers, UX, UI, like these words that now are semi commonplace. Like nobody understood what these things meant in like 2010. And then I ran that studio for 3 years, and I became this osmosis layer between the hardcore strategists and the designers, and I play both jobs at the same time. And it ended up being the hardest job I've ever done, I think, or one of the hardest jobs I've ever done. And I learned so much. It was like drinking from a fire hose on digital and innovation and building and testing and understanding human-centered design, and all of that knowledge got just locked and loaded in those 3 years. And then that product studio grew up into a full startup incubator. So it became, now we're taking the products and actually building them into businesses and launching them in market and hiring the team and raising the funding. So it went from building a business on paper to then actually testing that business in market to then actually launching it in market and doing all the other things that come with 0 to 1 on a startup. And all super interesting, all built the toolkit that I have now, but all in worlds not that diverse, not very diverse, not enough women, not enough people of color, not enough intersections of those two things. And so I started looking for ways to move some capital and get involved with female founders in particular, because that was for me, like as being one of the few women in the room and always holding the flag for diversity and these things, like I needed to put some other effort into things that were outside of my day job, and they had to be related to getting more women with the capital they need in venture. And so started writing angel texts, got involved with some of the companies, became advisor in some places. And then I met my two co-founders for Emmeline Ventures by way of that angel investing. So Lakeisha, Azine, and I all met in 2019 by way of a group called Pipeline Angels.
Mhm, mhm.
And they grouped me into cohorts by location. We were all in the LA cohort. We all raised our hand to run diligence on the same company, the same founder that we met through the process. And the rest is history. Like that diligence experience taught us so much, showed us that we could work together. Our backgrounds are very complementary. I'm the strategist, Lakeisha the ops, Azine,
Yeah.
talent and deep finance. And so we had the right mix, right, of things that we could diligence companies well, we can find them well, we can really bring some new pattern recognition to market. And we can help founders in really deliberate ways because
Yes.
in those early stages, no matter what question they hit, one of us has seen it. One of us has been through it. So we launched our pilot fund like 3 months later, and now we're 23 companies strong in the portfolio. So it's been incredible. It's been incredible.
Oh, and such a great story. And I just love the idea of 23 companies that you are bringing your expertise, your support, your network. And I do believe that venture is transformative for businesses. Not all venture
Oh
is
yeah,
the same, right?
yes,
Not all venture is the same. Like, and but it really does change the whole landscape of what a founder can do, because it's not just because of the money. The money helps for sure, but it's also all the other wonderful aspects of what you bring to the table. I love, so one of the things I am fascinated by in business and founders is that, um, and you do this so well, and venture, you're a founder as a venture firm, you are a founder too, is the idea that purpose and vision and narrative, how you tell your story matters, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
it matters. It really matters. And you have this great name, Emmeline Ventures. Can you tell us about that choice
Yeah.
and why, and how it helps you as a founder and as, in your day to day?
Yeah. Yeah. So we went looking for a name for the fund when we were doing our full formulation and getting set up on all the legalese. And the three of us, we went out searching. We knew we wanted a name. We wanted like a woman's name that felt really important to us, but we wanted a name that didn't have any existing baggage or connotations or things that we would have to undo. We wanted something that we could own pretty quickly. And so we're each researching and looking around, trying to, think of ideas and brainstorm. And we came across the name Emmeline Pankhurst, and she was the first suffragette in Britain. She led the women's rights, voting rights movement there. And we're like, oh my God, no, this isn't okay. Great. Park that name. That's great. We like that. And then we came across another Emmeline in science who isolated the speed gene in racehorses. And we're like, oh my goodness. And then we found another Emmeline who plays soccer in Europe, and she's one of the strongest performers in her category, one of the best on her team. Then we found a fictional book by the namesake Emmeline that is a woman in the 1950s who didn't want to get married and have kids only. She wanted to have a business and build an empire and run, a large enterprise. And despite what her surroundings wanted her to do, she did it. And so we found these four Emmelynes who had done tremendous things, who had changed the world for themselves and everyone after them, who were setting an example for the Emmelynes behind them. And we had to do it. We had three different names at that point, and we had to vote and discuss, and we had put some, branding around them. And we just, it won. There was no question in our minds that we had to be Emmeline Ventures because it's who we're building for. It's who got us here, and it's the path we're trying to create. So that was it.
I just love it. And it's so intentional and deep and strong and lasting. I believe that's part of what creates a great company,
Yeah.
especially an early stage company to have those kinds of roots. And I know, so following the name, I know you have a very specific focus. You talked
Mhm.
about it. I I've told you this before, that I go to your website and I just feel good. Just like to read the words on your website and feel like women this is our time. We're
Yeah.
here and we're ready and we're doing it. And it says on your website, we invest in female founders building game-changing businesses which empower women in particular to manage their health, build their wealth, and live a cleaner, safer world.
Mhm.
Wow. So talk about clarity of
Yeah.
purpose and vision, conviction. Tell us more about that and how that
Yeah.
translates
Yeah.
to what you
Yeah.
do.
Absolutely. So we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to anchor the thesis because we knew we wanted to invest in female founders. That was kind of going in baseline assumption. But we then had to prioritize the sectors that we wanted to then activate that in. And one of the criteria was where one, it has to have influence on how women live. And two, we want to have influence on that sector. And can that influence be big enough? Is there a ripple effect to what we do there? And so by way of looking at the sectors and doing some research, like healthcare for women is a big, big deal, right? And there's so much in terms of gaps in basic science, gaps in funding, gaps in clinical trials, that we can really, really change what the category looks like if
Yeah.
we put money into that sector. And so that was the first one on the board where we have to do healthcare and specifically have to do women's health. And then with that came wealth, because for women, health and wealth are very deeply tied, and you can't do one without the other. And things like abortion, right? If you can't make that one decision, it's going to affect your financial outcomes. And your financial outcomes affect your ability to get the services you need when you need them.
Yeah.
So, and women sit at the center of their households, right? They're driving 85% of household spend. They have huge influence on what products and services enter the home and are used by the family. So we had to do health and wealth together because just one doesn't go far enough in terms of impact. So had to have financial services on the table, specifically around tools and products and platforms that are putting financial access, autonomy, and opportunity into women's hands quite directly. And that's what we're looking for. And then third, we knew we needed climate in there. We had to think about the environment because what she eats, what she reads, what she wears, all of that affects her health. And then her health and wealth are tied. So we had to wrap health and wealth with environment. And those three things, the red thread is that together, if you do them well, women will thrive and prosper, and their families and communities will thrive and prosper also. If one of those falls down, the whole thing falls down. And so we have to do all three of them. And so women's health, we invest in everything across her life cycle. So
Mhm.
mental health, sexual wellness, menopause, maternal care, like we're going to hit everything across her lived experience. It's all digitally enabled. It's all technology of some kind. Add financial wellness, I mentioned. And then in our, what we call now our sustainability bucket, half of it is food tech, ag tech, supply chains, clean supply chains across sectors so that we can clean up what she's eating, clean up what she's wearing, clean up what she's breathing. And then the other half of it, we embed content systems and inclusive content into that as well because of the algorithms we live in, because of how information gets to us. If we can put money against smarter content, more inclusive content by women for women into technology systems that are taking out bias and censorship, those things are going to make the things that end up on her phone every day more
Yes.
attuned to her and less affected by politics or by echo chambers or whatever else is going on so that she reads what she wants to read. And it, all of that, right, folds into her mental health, which then feeds into the rest of it.
That's wonderful. Could you give us a couple of examples of the portfolio companies that sort of illustrate what this,
Yes.
your thesis in action?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So in our women's health bucket, there's a company called LunaJoy that is a telehealth clinic for mental health
Which I love.
by women for women. So it's two female founders, they're clinicians and practitioners by trade. They saw a gap in the market around getting women the kind of mental health support they need and doing that early. So they were meeting women at moments where they're in crisis mode. And they both thought, my goodness, if I had met you 2 years ago, you would not be here right. But because of how mental health systems are built, and this is healthcare at large, like it's not curated for women, it's not tailored for how we handle stress, deal with our lives, walk through life moments. And so they've built a platform that's specifically doing that. So it's really tailor made for how women are going and from adolescence through to parenthood and beyond. They're really tailoring it to life moments and providing the right support in those moments. So tremendous. They're growing like crazy. They're doing so well. We big fans. They're like shiny object in how they're doing things. In our financial services bucket, we have a company called The Beans. And
Yeah.
we love The Beans because what she's done, this founder was a teacher with Teach for America for a number of years. And she's comes from education. She comes from having been, a preschool teacher for a while. And what she noticed was that her peers around her, the churn rate is extremely high in those organizations. So they have teachers come and go all the time.
Right.
And the driver of it is financial stress. So because they aren't always able to like meet their monthly bills or maintain what they need for rent, they will end up taking on multiple jobs around the teaching job to be able to hit what they need to cover expenses. And the financial stress is one of the worst forms of stress that humans can go through. And then it manifests and ripples into every other part of your life. She had a hypothesis that if you could resolve financial stress, you could actually resolve a lot of other financial wellness problems. You could improve financial wellness by reducing stress. But for this category of professionals, they're called caring class professionals, healthcare, government, and education, they actually suffer from the most acute forms of financial stress because of the kinds of jobs they're in. 70% of them are women. Most plus women have children.
Mhm.
So what she did, she ran away and did her PhD or did her thesis project on really proving out this hypothesis around financial stress in this category of professionals. She determined the levers to reduce that financial stress. It is, of course, education and planning and tooling, but it's there are some specific levers you can pull in storytelling and content that you can put together with your actual data, but
Mhm. Mhm.
actually visualize how things are going. And she's built a product that does that.
I love it.
Selling it into Head Start and Teach for America as first line customers. It's getting deployed through their benefits program to their employees. So it's a financial wellness benefit they get.
Mhm.
And in the year that it's been in place at Head Start, their retention rates have gone up double digits.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Well, it's really powerful. And I want to hear more, but I have to interject for a minute because, the caring class, it
yeah,
matters to me a lot. I mean, I have a healthcare company. We employ hundreds of nurses, and it's the same thing you're talking about. And
yeah,
these people go, and my daughter, my stepdaughter has, complex medical needs. And so what inspired our business was to have nursing in our home. And so I went and created our business. Nurses, and I know teachers are in the same kind of bucket. I know home health aides are this caring class, that the stress that they feel. I mean, we're almost all women that we employ. Um, Over 60% of them are single moms.
mhm,
uh,
yeah,
they're working 2 to 3 jobs. I mean, some of them are also somehow going to school, leveling up from an LPN to an RN, or an RN to BSN, whatever. These are incredible humans. And, it's hard. It's really hard to save money and
yeah.
to be financially solvent when you have so much responsibility and you don't make huge, huge money.
Yeah, yeah. And there's so many things they do. The beans will do onboarding sessions as they bring on employees of the businesses they're supporting. And more often than not, there's things around like student loan forgiveness or
Oh,
things that the human just
oh
doesn't have
no.
time to figure out, or they don't know if
Ah,
they're gonna have the time. And so she has these incredible stories of women in these sessions that realize that like $50,000 of their student debt has actually been forgiven and they don't have to worry about it.
ah,
And their whole perspective changed. They're like, "Oh my god, I would never have known. If not for the beans, I would not have known."
that is powerful.
Yeah.
So you've got LunaJoy, you've got the beans.
Yeah.
So we've got a clear example of health and wealth.
Yeah.
What's an example that you would say around clean?
Yeah, around clean. So I might give you 2 if that's okay, 'cause our
Yeah, of course.
okay. So one of them in our pilot fund is a company called Another Tomorrow, and it is a fully sustainable fashion brand. So high-end women's apparel, beautiful silhouettes,
Yeah.
really great, like, capsule pieces. And she has redone the entire supply chain from the farm through production to the consumer with an upcycle. So when you're done with the garment, you don't want it anymore, you can sell it back into the system and they can reuse it for new products. And
Wow.
completely redrawn it. And she's layered tech into it so that she can track the sustainability all the way through. And she's built a business on it. And now she's direct to consumer in wholesale and also international. And I mean, the $10 million in revenue last year. She's done incredibly well.
Great.
And the reason we loved it was because of the reimagination of the supply chain, right? Because as soon as one big brand, and I'm going to call her big because that's once she's figured it out, the big fashion houses are going to want to learn how she's done it
Mhm.
because you start to change the whole industry once one person has figured it out or one company has.
Well, and I've heard you talk about part of your thesis being that sort of core rewiring and
Yeah.
systemic
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
And that
And
sounds
that's
like,
what this is. That's what
yeah.
it is. Like that supply chain reimagination, if that permeates through the fashion industry, you start to take like fashion is one of the worst offenders when it comes to climate change with the amount of waste. And what she's done could change the whole category.
I love that.
It's tremendous.
So another tomorrow, and then you were going to share another one.
Yeah. So the other one, only because she was just an ad age last week. So I have to say it. So it's a company called Dough.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's a food company. And what she's done is she's taking very simple vegan ingredients and combining it with nutrients and supplements to reimagine desserts. So
Yeah.
there's a whole line of cookie doughs that are in Target, Walmart, Sprouts, Whole Foods. And she launched the company in 2020. As of last year, she's in 4,000 doors across the country. She's gone national in at least Sprouts and Whole Foods. And it's good for you and it tastes good. It has things like pomegranate in it, which is good for your skin and it tastes good and it's shelf stable. You can eat it raw or
Uh-huh.
or cook it.
Uh-huh.
And I always have like one or two in my fridge and I absolutely eat them raw. Like there's so much, they're so good. Always, she's got new flavors coming out like every 6 months. And she deep expertise in CPG. She understands how to build a
Yeah.
business. She can navigate the category. And she's growing like crazy. And she just got a spotlight in Ad Age last week. And they said that she's giving like Entenmann's a run for their money because she's now the
Wow.
designer that everybody wants. And I'm like, that is badass. It's amazing.
Yes, I love it. And it's again power of our communities and the power of venture and the power of how women, if we come together the way that I see us doing more and more,
Yep.
that we can really help each other. I saw on, I know we met each other through Julie Castro Abrams
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Lead and they put out a at the holidays a list of things, under wish lists that you could buy for the holidays for your loved ones. And I saw dough.
Yeah.
So
Good.
I bought dough for some friends and I bought it for my daughter who's gluten free. And so we shared it, actually Christmas Eve, we were having dough around our house here.
Oh, amazing. That's
Isn't that fun?
yeah.
I think it is part of too. It's like when you start to get into this world of helping women founders and women founders know this, like
Yeah.
you tap into this network of mama bears. We take care of each other.
Oh, yeah.
And we go the distance. So I love those four examples. It really helps us sort of see how you think about what you invest in. And one of the things I love about having venture capitalists here on our show is because, I was a founder for, gosh, almost 20 years before I even learned anything about venture. Like
Yeah.
nothing. I
Yeah.
mean, nothing. And so, when I got to be a little more successful as a founder, I had some extra investment capital and I started, like you, doing some angel investing. And I went through a boot camp myself, and it was revealing to me because the way that an investor thinks about a business is really the way a founder should think about their business too,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Absolutely.
it's absolutely a good fit. And I learned, you have to look at your people, where's your team, domain expertise. And I hear this when you're talking about even your team, right? Your team, you have this diversified team of 3 leaders, different backgrounds. You've got your marketing strength. You've got your finance strength. You've really got this beautiful blend. And then, the problem. What's the problem that a company is solving, right? What
Mhm.
progress that they're making? How do they demonstrate traction? What are their KPIs? What's their strategy? And then, what's their price? What's their value? How are they going to exit? How are they going to use funds? What's the deal structure? And I look for purpose. What,
Mhm.
so I
Absolutely.
look, people, problem, progress, um, price, and purpose. How do you look at an opportunity, and maybe describe an opportunity for me that you really like, and why was you thought about it through your diligence process? Like lead us through a little bit of your
Yeah.
diligence process
Yep.
and how you choose and like, oh, you like this team because, and I like the way they approach the market because if you could unveil some of your thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. So our diligence process has 6 big parts to it. We have we have a 55-line spreadsheet that we answer all the questions on before we make a decision. So it's quite lengthy and quite robust in our perspective. So the first thing we're looking at is alignment to thesis. So does it fit what we're after across women's health, financial services, or sustainability? And that is one is a description of the problem, like what is the thing? And who is leading it because and who does it benefit? So we invest in women's health, financial services, sustainability, specifically where tech and services are helping women live and thrive. So that last part is important. It's not
Mhm.
women's health for women's health's sake. It's because we're trying to help women. And so it's is the first line benefactor of what they're building, does it affect women first? We absolutely want to help everybody, but that first line is women. So that's the test up front. And then we're also double downing on female CEOs. So we have to expand the 2%. We have to make sure we're getting more money into female founders' hands. So female CEO with the first line benefactor also is women. So that's the first gate. Then there's 4 big buckets. So one is the product itself. What is the product? How does it work? What's the differentiation? How does it stand out versus competitors? I'm a strategist. I build a lot of 2x2s. I'm looking for things to be up in that top right. Like, is it leading? Is it growing? Is it headed towards, a real trend or trajectory that it's being built against? And can we validate that? Then we're looking at the market space that they're in. How big is it? What's the TAM? Can we validate the TAM? Is it growing? How much acceleration is happening in the category? Are the trends and behaviors accelerating in that category? So what kind of growth is sitting around the product or service that they built? The third one is the exit, right? So with those 2 things, the third is, who are the comps? What kind of multiples are in that sector? Are we seeing competitive activity growing the category? Are we seeing more entrants? And how much venture money has gone into it so far? So when we came into the women's health space, there was already a lot of money going to fertility. That's been the over rotation of venture to date, has been everything gets aimed at fertility. We haven't made a fertility investment to date. And because very deliberately wanted to hit the rest of her lived experience before and after fertility. And so when it's crowded and there's a lot of money in a lot of companies, that means a bulk of that arbitrage opportunity has already been subsumed.
Right.
The other spaces, if there isn't a lot of crowding but the TAM is big or the growth is big or the trend is accelerating, that means there's arbitrage there. And so we need to go into those spaces. So we're testing for that as well. And then the fourth one is the founder themselves.
Yeah.
Who are they? What makes them tick? How do they problem solve? How do they take feedback? What is their financial acumen? Because can they walk us through sensitivities in their financial model, and they know how it's going to move, and they understand, what kind of levers are in there. So the product, the market space they're in, the exit opportunities, and then the founder themselves. And those are the 4 big things that we're looking at in diligence. The last one, the 6th one, is we call it the sizzle factor. It's the it factor. So we might love everything in the middle and it all makes good sense. The it factor is, does it change the game for women from the ground up? The core rewiring question. And more importantly, does it change the game for everybody over time? If we can hang our hat on that and say, my goodness, if this business scales and if this really has the influence it can have on the category, it's going to change the category. We can check every one of those boxes and hang our hat on that last one. We're writing a check.
I love it. That is so exciting. And so what size of investments do you make? What
Check size is somewhere between 200 to 500K. It really depends on the round, how much they're raising, and if we're leading or not. If we're leading, the check size would be higher. But we like to stay in valuations and safe caps that are kind of sub 20 million. Sub 15 is even better. So
why? And explain to our founders why.
Because when founders are raising on a safe, they're putting a cap, valuation cap on it. So 15 million is reasonable for a seed round. Because if I'm putting, let's say 500K in, I want to know what my potential equity position could be when that safe converts. It's not going to convert to equity until a priced round, which will probably be your Series A. But I want to be able to do that math now on what my conversion is going to be. If that safe cap is 25, 30, 40 million, it's too expensive, right? The same 500K just doesn't go as far.
Yep. Makes sense. And what's your positioning on leading versus not? How often do you do it? And why is it, what would you tell a founder about cultivating a lead investor?
Yeah. So we've only led once so far. So of the 9 in the current portfolio, we just led the most recent one. It was a pre-seed raise. It's a fintech. And the reason we decided to lead was, one, we love the opportunity. Like, all of our boxes checked off, right, in spades, and we can hang our hat on the sizzle factor. 2, the founder market fit for this company is so incredibly strong. This founder has spent 25 years in financial services. She understands wealth management. She knows how to navigate financial services and what it takes to build tech in financial services. So her ability to build a product and a fintech platform in this category is extremely high. There are other fintechs in the wild that don't have a founder with this kind of capability, and she's much, much stronger than many of them. So that was a big one for us. And then the audience that she's after is 70% of US households who have asset values less than 1 million in total. So she's really targeting like the bulk of American households who aren't qualified as or aren't deemed wealthy today. But she's here to bring them financial insight and wealth generation support in a way that can double and triple their ability to generate wealth. And so all of those things for us were really powerful. The TAMs were there, the growth is there. Like there will be technology hurdles. We will have to think about conversion and CAC. Like all of those things are there, but we believe in the founder. We deeply believe in what she's building, and she's done all the homework to make sure she can succeed. That for us is a strong thing to lead because it puts our hand on her shoulder in a way to say, like, you're really going to do this and we're going to do this with you. And we can really help in more deliberate ways. So we can bring other investors to it. We can describe why we're involved. I'm in a board observer seat with her now, so I can get more deeply involved in the business. It really comes down to what the thing is, how differentiated it is, and that founder market fit, and really what's the potential for growth. And those things will be why we'll say, you know what, we could lead this.
That's great.
We'll probably lead 30% of the time. We won't lead always. We're also very happy to follow on if the terms make sense. We get the opportunity to lead. It's a really powerful and fun experience.
And so what happens? So like, I think a lot of times when founders are raising money, it's, they're thinking about the day they get funded, right? And now they've got the cash.
Yeah.
So how does life change after you have received outside funding? And
Yeah.
how should founders think about that?
Yeah. Goodness, that's a great question. So one, just take the sigh of relief and take a night off and pour a glass of wine and enjoy it, right? You had like fundraising is no small feat right now. And so if you convert the capital and you close out that round, like take half a day to a day to just kind of live in the shimmer of that a little bit. So that's step one. Step two is that you have to think about budgeting and you have to stay meticulous on your budgeting, because if you go from $0 to $2 million, you're going to feel very wealthy and feel like you can do anything. And of course you can do anything, but you need that money to last as long as it possibly can, because runway is what you're up against. You have to make sure you can run that business and have some room ahead of raising your next round. So 18 to 24 months is what you should make sure you have the runway for coming out of a raise, because in about 18, let's say you have 24 months of runway, in 18 months, you're going to start fundraising again. You don't want, and you don't want it to be crunch time on your runway when you're fundraising.
Right.
Get comfortable on your runway. You can pay your team and keep building and keep deploying and keep building metrics while you raise that next round. So being very thoughtful and prudent on how you manage that boon of capital is very, very important. Being careful not to overhire all of a sudden, because now you can pay salaries and do things like that. Stay as thoughtful as you can on what skills you actually need in the building and how you bring them into the building. Not everybody needs to be full-time. Not everybody needs equity. You can absolutely freelance some folks in and they'll be fantastic. So really thinking about how you're going to do that part of it. And then you're planning ahead for that next round, because running out of cash is the worst possible thing. So you have to make sure what we call it is capitalization planning. Like you have to plan, put your capitalization model on paper, really have thought about when you're going to raise, what your runway is going to look like, how much time do you need to raise that capital so that you're not coming up on empty and suddenly you have to go get more money.
Right. And also start building the traction that will help you raise the next round.
Yeah.
That could drive your strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I'm just noticing the time, unfortunately. My question, I have a question about, what I think is a venture capitalist, you have a very unique spot where you get to sort of, first, you get to work with these founders. You find these wonderful founders. They're have these beautiful visions and companies to do great things in the world. And you have this amazing perspective to see all these different founders do their job and build. What do you see is what once a founder gets funded and goes on, what do you see are the marks of 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 great leadership? What do you see are the wise leaders, the ones that make it? What are your sort of reflections of the road?
Yeah, yeah. So the things that really propel founders in strong ways and set them up to be continue to be successful is really watching the market and where the trends are heading and doing a lot of testing and learning. Even you're going to pivot so many
Yeah.
times between seed and series A and even a little bit after series A, but really being creative about what your business model could look like, testing that out before you launch anything full scale, finding easy ways to
Oh, we froze.
think it's really important. So I think that founders that can do that well end up really, really growing their business well. And a lot of it is about preciousness, right? It can't be precious. You can't be like, oh, no, this is the only way it's going to work. You have to be able to pivot and move and listen to the market so that you can build the business in the best way possible so that you can generate sales and traction and those things. The other is really strong leadership skills. And a lot of that comes down to listening. So if you're going to lead a team and you're bringing on diverse voices and you have functions for everybody, you need to set vision and guidance and then get out of the way, right? And then let the great team you've hired has to execute. But with that comes also catching toxicity and bad behavior before it permeates, right? So it's a little bit, it can feel like a double-edged sword. It's like, I have to let people do, but like that something's wrong. Listen to your gut and your spidey senses when something seems wrong, but be careful to catch yourself
Yeah.
that you're not just overdoing your own opinion and taking away creativity from your team.
Right. That's such a balance, right? The
Yeah.
control, the need to control, especially as an early stage
Yeah.
founder, right?
Yeah.
That need to try to like and you feel that
Yeah.
desperate to make sure it all goes well. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you have to let them be and then
Yeah.
speak when it's really a toxic problem.
And the last thing I'll add, and this comes down to expenses and kind of part of the 2 million, right, that you might spend. Find some room for professional development and an executive coach. And because that, especially for female founders, can be so transformational because you need and it could, I mean, I can be your professional coach, but that's not my function, right? But
Right.
if you can
Right.
find a person who becomes your once a month, you spend an hour with them just talking and thinking and dissecting and building in a way that helps you stay grounded, it's game changing because on the other side of things, most of our male counterparts have other senior men that they're spending a lot of time with, that they're getting that executive coaching from by way of the rooms that they're in. Women aren't
Yeah.
in those rooms all the time. So if you have to pay for an executive coach, do it because it will change the game for how you run your business.
I love that advice. It's so true. It's absolutely true. I see it happening too, where it's like you really do need an outside support. And so much of what we go through as founders, it's um, you might not, you go through things that none of your friends perhaps
Yeah.
have gone through.
Yeah.
And you need somebody to be able to walk those pieces through. And confidence is probably the most important thing to have as a founder and as an entrepreneur. And
Oh, yeah.
so you need to keep finding it from somewhere. So how can founders pitch your fund?
So a couple of ways. We have a pitch us link on our website, so you can submit directly to the website. Everything comes into our deal flow pipeline. We do look at everything. We may not respond right away, so a little bit of grace, but we do look at everything. And all three of us are out in the wild at conferences and speaking and things pretty much all the time. So you can find one of us somewhere, say hello, create a relationship, start to engage, and tell us more about who you are. And that's the easiest way to find us. We're all on LinkedIn. We're constantly sharing stuff on LinkedIn. So finding us there is great too. The thing I'll add, and I tell founders this all the time, female founders in particular, the first time I meet you should not be when you're pitching me,
Yeah.
right? Like spend the time on relationship building and really like showing up at events, finding us in conferences, talking, laughing, like let's go get coffee. Because that organic relationship building, it just pays off in spades later. And it's why when we see our male counterparts raise their round in a weekend, it's because they've spent the last 6 months with those people eating, golfing, going out, whatever it is.
Yes.
And now they can text them and say, "Hey, I launched my round. Will you invest?" And you're already past the relationship part. So you can get
Yeah.
to the transaction. Where because we're just opening up in this space in good, deliberate ways, we often end up in the transaction too fast.
Yeah.
And we're not leveraging the relationship and community skills that women very innately have.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Thank you for that message. And thank you for joining us today.
yeah,
It is
absolutely.
always a pleasure. And for everybody listening today, please be sure to go check out Emmeline Ventures, learn more about it, check out the founders, go and be their customers, because we can together move the needle, but with how we spend our money, how we invest our money, and how we build our companies. So thank you again. And if there's anything we can do to help you, please reach out to us at www.aforceforgood.biz and go make the world a better place. Thank you.
Do it, do it, do it.
Are you ready to build a business that leads in both impact and profit? Discover the Force for Good book, a guide for purpose-led leaders who want to accelerate impact, scale, and profit. Pre-order your copy today at www.aforceforgood.biz/book and receive immediate access to 30 plus valuable tools for you and your team. Join the Force for Good movement. Pre-order your copy now at www.aforceforgood.biz/book.